Hey guys, this is Eric with Mediavine, and during our SEO Like a CEO series, we're going to take things back a little bit. We're going to talk about what a keyword is. So you may be thinking, duh, that's a really oversimplified topic. What is a keyword? But it's actually going to be probably a little more complex than you think. So keywords, you may be thinking, is a term that best describes your content, and you would be correct. But we have a much more nuanced definition of a keyword here at Mediavine. I want to make sure we're on the same page because a keyword is literally the fundamental thing in all of SEO. It's what you're targeting against, it's what you're optimizing for. So we want to make sure we're talking about the same keyword when you and I are both saying that same word. So when we say keyword here at Mediavine, we almost mean more of a key phrase. It's the entire sentence a user is typing into Google to arrive at your site. That is the key phrase or the keyword you're typically going to be optimizing for, and you really only have one per post, or a focused keyword, as you'll often see it referred to in SEO. So there might be multiple keywords that describe your site, but the keyword or key phrase we're talking about is really that focused keyword, and that's what we're talking about today. All right, so first, it might be easy to talk about what a keyword is not, again, to make sure we're on the same page. So we're going to use an example today, and that example is low-carb strawberry cheesecake recipe. That's the post we're talking about. All right, so you may have thought in the past there's that little section for you to enter your keywords in WordPress or in Yoast that may have you separate them by commas, and you might have typed in cheesecake, comma, low-carb, comma, strawberry, comma, recipe. If you're doing that, those were technically keywords, but you were doing it wrong. And that's not what we want you guys to do. What we want you to be doing is typing in your key phrase there. In this particular example, it would actually be the entire sentence, low carb strawberry cheesecake recipe. We'll be going into why in just a second. But really, again, just think keywords are really just a key phrase and only one, and that will help put you in the right path. And again, always put yourself in that user's shoes. What are they typing into Google? And that's what leads us into the next section. And that is what a user's typing into Google is all about user intent. And that's really what's going to drive what you're thinking about with the key phrase. So with user intent, we mean what is the user trying to find? I know it's super buzzwordy, user intent, but it's okay. It really is the best word to describe this. And so when you're talking about a low-carb strawberry cheesecake recipe, that is actually the intent, right? So if a user just typed in cheesecake, and that's all you put in your keyword, you have no idea what that user is looking for, right? When a user types into Google, hey, I want cheesecake, Google now has to process through literally trillions of pages to try to find the result best for that user. It's super challenging if that user put in no intent or you put no intent in for your document. So again, if someone typed in cheesecake, that could be describing anything from I want to see pictures of cheesecake, I want to order cheesecake, I want to get cheesecake at a restaurant, I want to know what cheesecake is, I want to know how many calories are in cheesecake, well, I want to know the nutrition facts of cheesecake, or I want to know how to make it. There are so many different searches that could mean if you just typed in cheesecake. So the good news is that's not how most users search at the end of the day, right? Again, put yourself into your user's chair. What do you type into that search box? Chances are, if you're anything like me, it's probably pretty embarrassing what you end up typing in that search box, right? It's a random string of words typically. It might be incoherent. It's typically going to be a fragment. You might form it as a question, but you're definitely not just typing in the word cheesecake. You're almost rambling into that box. And what you're trying to do is basically show your intent to Google, right? You want to get the best results from Google closest to what you're trying to search. And that's what we mean by user intent. And that's super key for you as well with picking the keyword for your blog post. You want to show Google this is the intent of my article so that it can best match their users that are showing that same intent. All right, so you're probably wondering, okay, if it's these giant key phrases, whatever happened to major search terms like cheesecake? You see them show up maybe in keyword planner tools. So those are called short tail keywords. They typically show up in keyword planner tools because they are part of every single search. So let's go back to our example. Let's say you had two different searches. You had both strawberry cheesecake and blueberry cheesecake. It's two different searches. Two people were typing into Google. Again, those are both really still short tail and not what we want to go after because they don't show user intent. But for this simple example, it's important to note that cheesecake is at the root of both of those two, right? But strawberry and blueberry are unique to each of the two phrases. So you're going to see that cheesecake has a lot more competition for it because now there's 2 articles for it versus strawberry cheesecake or blueberry cheesecake that each only had 1. So you can start to see how short tail becomes kind of all-encompassing of all the other searches, and it's super competitive and probably not what you want to focus on, and also normally does not show user intent. Of course, there are exceptions. There's many searches that for only 1 or 2 words could imply the intent. There's only one way of looking at things. But for the most part, they're not what you want. Again, you want to be able to show Google, this is the intent behind my article to match what users are searching for. So again, that's kind of not what you want to go after short tail. And we'll have a lot more to talk about versus short tail versus long tail in future blog posts and videos. All right, so you may be wondering, okay, so how do you pick the right key phrase? So I'm going to go a little meta for a second and let you know that's actually a different topic or a different key phrase than the one we're going after in this video. So in this video, we're talking what is a keyword, not how do you pick a keyword. You can really see how those are 2 different intents for you as the listener, right? You don't want to necessarily hear me ramble for 45 minutes about every single topic. That's why we break these things up. And when we go to talk about how to pick the best key phrase, there's a whole other series of things we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about things like keyword planning tools, and that's going to be a lot of the essence behind this stuff. And again, there's basically going to be 3 main factors when you're picking a keyword. And we'll go into all this in much more detail, don't worry. But basically making sure that the search phrase is most applicable to your content. That is the most important one, obviously. Make sure you're using something like a keyword planning tool to make sure you're picking keywords that people are searching for. And then the third one is making sure it's not too competitive, that it's winnable. Again, these are much more complex topics than I'm briefly overviewing. And then of course the other question you're probably wondering is how do you optimize your post for a keyword or a key phrase? Well, that is literally the essence of this entire series and not something I can just answer with a few quick sentences. But I will tell you it's basically going to come down to using that keyword properly throughout your content and following all the various, and that's typically called on-page, and then following all the off-page advice, making sure you're getting links. There's so much that goes into SEO or optimization of key phrases that we can't really talk about it in just the end of this video. So basically, that's my teaser. Stay tuned because that's entirely what we're talking about throughout this entire series. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. Now that we're finally on the same page with key phrases, we can start getting into more complex topics. So subscribe and I will see you guys next week.